And we do have big breaking news in Major League Baseball. The New York Mets and Max Scherzer finalizing a 3-year deal approximately worth $130 million. That, according to our MLB insider, Jim Bowden. The 8-time All-Star split last season with the Nats and the Dodgers, finishing third in National League Cy Young voting there. Mets GM, their new GM, we should say, Billy Epler, has made quite a splash in free agency so far, signing Starling Marte, Eduardo Escobar, among others, the past 2 days. But the big one going down right now today, Max Scherzer, now 37 years old. The deal will make him the highest paid player in Major League Baseball history by an AAV, an average annual value. You can see he is now sitting there above Garrett Cole at $36 million, Steven Strasburg at $35, Trevor Bauer $34, Max Scherzer, his AAV now $43.3 million. But as Jim Bowden will tell us here in just a second, Trevor Bauer was the one to beat. Let's welcome in MLB insider Jim Bowden here. Max Scherzer headed to the Mets on this historic deal here. And as I said just a couple seconds ago, the deal they really wanted to beat was Trevor Bauer. Why is that?
Yeah, Scott Boras loves to break records. And last year, if you look at the Trevor Bauer deal, it was a 2-year deal that has a third year, but he could opt out after 2. And if it was 2 years, it was going to be $85 million, which would have been an AAV of $42.5 million. Scott Boras wanted to make sure that Scherzer broke the record and under all circumstances would be the highest paid player in the history of the sport. He accomplished it because this AAV, as you just mentioned, $43 million. Now, of course, because of Bauer's legal issues, he probably won't opt out after the second year anyway, so the AAV will go back to the $34 million you saw on the graphic. But this is a staggering contract. This absolutely is going to change the paradigm for contracts for starting pitchers, and that's why he's a New York Met. Look, he loved it in Los Angeles. If he had his way, he would have stayed with the Dodgers. The Dodgers weren't willing to go to this kind of money with 3 years guaranteed. The Mets had the best offer on the table. And Max Scherzer has a home in Jupiter, Florida, and that's just down the street from Port St. Lucie, where the New York Mets have spring training. So it's a good fit for him from a spring training perspective. This is a pitcher that finished second in the National League in the Cy Young voting behind Corbin Burns. He is still pitching like an ace. He's the guy you want on the mound in the 7th inning. And Amanda, Steve Cohen, when he bought the Mets, this was the type of offseason we were expecting last year, and we didn't get it. Everything has been a nightmare for the Mets until about the last couple of weeks. And all of a sudden, the New York Mets are making their statement. They're becoming legitimate contenders. And this deal alone, despite all the other good moves they've made this offseason, this is the difference maker, because if Jacob deGrom is healthy, and he and Max Scherzer are pitching up the snuff, they might be the best 1-2 starters in the sport next year, and that makes the Mets a serious threat, not only in the NL East, but quite frankly, if they get to the postseason, they'll have the starting pitching to run the table. This is a huge day if you're a Mets fan.
Well, Jim, just everything I'm hearing from you, I mean, it just seems like a glowing review here. And you mentioned there, Max Scherzer still playing like an ace. He will be 38 years old in July, but he's still with this type of production there. I mean, so would you just give this an A+ across the board for the Mets? This is a great deal and the money is right?
It's an A+ for Scott Boras, an A+ for Max, and an A+ for the Mets. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, is the money ridiculous? Yes. Is there risk in year 3? Of course. But the way he's pitched the last couple of years, if they take care of him and can keep him healthy, there's no reason to think he won't dominate the next 2 years and still be a really good pitcher in year 3 of this contract. I think it's a really good gamble for the New York Mets, and it's a game changer for the image of the Mets. The Mets' image has gone south so fast, and Steve Cohen this offseason has said, stop, I'm over it, I'm sick of it. Here's an ace in Max Scherzer. This is the #1 pitcher that was on the free agent market. He's now a Met. He got Starling Marte to play center field. This is a guy that gets on base at a high level, can steal bases, can hit home runs, comes with energy. Combine that with the Lindner signing of last year, the New York Mets are finally in the direction where we not only call them legitimate contenders, but, they're a World Series contender again. And this move just puts an exclamation point on what has been a great month there for the Mets.
Talk to us about what this means in general for the Mets and also their starting rotation there, because, I mean, at the beginning of last season, we had Jacob deGrom making history. I mean, he was just absolutely incredible. Then dealing with those injuries, eventually out for the rest of the season, throwing Max Scherzer into the mix here. What can we expect next season?
Yeah, I mean, look, they've lost Stroman, they lost Syndergaard. They do think DeGrom is going to be healthy. They're not worried about it. So with him and Max at the top, you've got Taijuan Walker. This is going to be a good rotation. I still think they're going to go out and get another veteran starter. It's going to be interesting to see if they still want to play on Javier Baez. I would love to see them bring Baez back to play second base. If we have him at second, Lindor at short, with Escobar at third, Cannon left, Marte in center, Alonso at first. You still got Dominic Smith if the DH goes into effect. This is going to be a very solid lineup with James McCann behind the plate. So I like where the Mets are going, but they cannot let up on the gas pedal. If Steve Cohen is going to make all these moves and open up the checkbook and do the kind of things he's done, he should not stop here. He should get absolutely greedy. I think he should try to bring Stroman back. I don't think he's going to, but if he doesn't, I'd love to see him make a run at Robbie Ray as well. I don't think I want to see him let up. Let's the New York Mets become the Yankees of the National League. How fun would that be?
What about the Dodgers? What does this mean for them losing him?
Amanda, that is a great question. Great follow-up there, because this is significant. What it means for the Dodgers is all they know right now is Buehler, Urias, and Gonsolin in the rotation. That's all they know. Clayton Kershaw is a free agent. He also has an elbow issue. He may go to the Texas Rangers. He may go home where his home is and play half his games at home. That's a possibility. If he goes to the Dodgers, the elbow risk is going to be there. This is a big loss. They're trying to deal with the Trevor Bauer situation. They don't know if Major League Baseball is going to suspend him. It doesn't sound like they're going to let him come back and pitch if they don't suspend him. And I don't think he's a tradable asset. So do they release him? I don't know. If they do, they've got to pay him the $45 million. So either way, this is going to be a difficult blow to the Dodgers, no doubt about it. You've got Bob Melvin now with San Diego managing that team. They're going to get healthier than they were last year and be a contender. The Giants are coming off 107 wins as well. So LA's got some work to do. And by the way, Corey Seager, their shortstop free agent, may be the next guy to sign. And it's going to be interesting to see if the Dodgers pivot here after losing out on Scherzer and give the money to Seager, who, by the way, is represented by the same agent, Scott Boras.
Jim, we have an impending lockout here, and mentioning Scott Boras right now, and for that matter, pretty much any Major League Baseball agent, they are trying to get these deals done before that. From my understanding from you, it is at the very top of the list for Scott Boras. They're explaining what's going on with free agency in regards to the lockout.
Well, the one thing you don't know with the lockout is how long is it going to be? I mean, all of us hope there's not a work stoppage. We hope we don't miss any games, but we don't know. I mean, we've lived through work stoppages in the mid-90s. And so let's take worst case scenario if you're a player. If you're not signed by the expiration of midnight on Wednesday, if you're not signed as a player, then you're still a free agent. Now, what happens if the lockout goes into the season and we miss April and May and the teams start losing millions of dollars? Well, they're not going to sign these kind of contracts. There's no way. So if you're a player, don't you want to get these deals done before the expiration of the CBA? So if there is a work stoppage, you don't have to worry about your next team. You don't have to worry about your next contract. You know, whenever play resumes, you're going to get paid, and you're going to get paid market value. So if I'm an agent or a player, I'm going to do everything I can to sign between now and Wednesday at midnight, because I don't see any progress being made in the CBA negotiations at all. I think there's a very slim chance something gets done between now and then. I think the lockout is coming. So again, from the player side, I would get it done. And if you're on the club side, you snooze, you lose. If you didn't play on Scherzer because you're waiting till after the lockout, guess what? You're not going to get the players. So I think we're going to see a flurry of activity here on CBS HQ over the next 24 hours. I think there's a lot of moves going to happen. And look for the shortstop market to be next. I think Corey Seager, Carlos Correa, Trevor Story, that group may be the next big contracts to go.
All right, don't head too far, Jim. I'm sure we'll be talking to you very soon then here on CBS Sports HQ. We appreciate your insight into this. A huge deal, again, getting done today. Max Scherzer headed to the Mets, finalizing as you take a look at his player profile there. 3 years, approximately $130 million. His AAV now $43.3 million per year. That is the highest in Major League Baseball history. Coming up in just 1 minute, we'll talk to David Samson on the other side of the break and see what he has to say about this historic deal. Breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ. Big breaking news out of Major League Baseball. The Mets and Max Scherzer finalizing a 3-year deal approximately worth $130 million. That is historic. We'll tell you why here in a second. And that information coming down from our MLB insider, Jim Bowden. The 8-time All-Star split last season between the Nationals and the Dodgers, finished third in National League Cy Young voting. New Mets GM Billy Epler's made pretty much a big splash here in free agency, signing Starling Marte, Eduardo Escobar, among others, the past 2 days. As you take a look there at the impact of Max Scherzer to the Mets, the wins there going from 82.4 to 84.7, pretty much going up across the board there. Keep in mind, Max Scherzer, 37 years old. He will be 38 in July, but maintains to be one of the best pitchers in baseball. Let's welcome in the host of the Nothing Personal podcast, David Samson, here to talk about this deal. Max Scherzer headed to the Mets, 3 years, about $130 million. David, what do you think about the deal initially?
I think it's a dream come true for Scott Boras, and I'll tell you exactly what he did. He found an owner who was willing to listen to what he was spewing, because here's how the conversation went. Scott called Steve Cohen and said, listen, you got to get this done. Scherzer's signing somewhere. It looks like he's going to be in California. But people are really making fun of you, Steve. And you said you want to win a World Series in 3 to 5 years. Here's how to do it. You're going to have to go to 3 years, and you're going to have to blow the record out of the water for average annual value. So if you do 130 over 3, Max will say yes today. Are you ready? People love you, Steve. That's what Scott Boras does, and that's what he did here. The Mets are a good team. Maybe. Are they the best team in the division? Let's talk about the Nationals. They had Strasburg, Corbin, and Scherzer with Juan Soto, and ended up trading at the deadline because they couldn't win games because of injury and lack of performance. This desperation for players to sign right now is all because owners are scared and they have FOMO, and that's why you're seeing these record deals happen one after the other. There's no real deadline, Amanda. I don't know what everybody's talking about. Wednesday is not a deadline to sign free agents.
So if you're in the front office, David, and you're seeing this flurry of activity, you have some position open, these free agents are out there, what do you do then? Do you just cool on your heels? Do you jump into the mix? What's the smart thing to do?
Yeah, you have to tell your owner to calm down. And that's the thing, that if your owner will listen to you, then you're going to be better off for it. The Mets don't need Billy Epler. You could be the GM of the Mets and sign Marte for what they gave him and sign Scherzer for what they gave him, if you think about it. You need a good executive to actually sign players who are going to outperform their contracts, to actually sign players who aren't the number one free agent in the market. That's how good teams get great, with good executives who can add value. Signing Max Scherzer to $130 million over 3, anybody could do it. I don't mean to be disrespectful, Amanda, because you'd be terrific as a GM, but anybody could do that signing. So while Met fans are happy today, and I'm glad they're happy, this doesn't change anything in the National League East at all.
Talk to me about the money there, 43.3, his AAV there, Garrett Cole behind him at 36, then Strasburg 35, Bauer 34. I mean, does this do something to the industry?
No, because I think when you're in the industry, you look at what Steve Cohen's doing and you recognize he's an outlier. Remember, Steve Cohen just bought the Mets. A little technical issue here, Amanda. When you buy a team, you get to depreciate the assets of the team that you bought. And so from a tax position, you have huge, huge financial benefits right in the first 5 years of purchasing a team. Also, Steve Cohen knew that in the first several years of running the Mets, he was willing to lose over $200 million overall over that first period. Therefore, you knew that he'd be willing to have a high payroll. So the question was not when he was going to spend money. The question wasn't, will anyone play for the Mets because I tweet? The reality is, all you have to do is overpay, and you can get any player to play for you. But for Steve, he doesn't view it as an overpay. He views it as an investment so that what he said comes true, that they would win a World Series in 3 to 5 years. But financially, he's okay with having a payroll over whatever the luxury tax threshold turns out to be.
So talk to us about the Mets next season, because they finished 11 and a half games back of the Braves this past season here. You said the Mets, they're a good team. Are they a great team? Not really sure. It looks like we're going to get DeGrom back, but with this pitching rotation, the Mets in general, to turn them into a great team, if they want to be, what needs to be done?
Well, let's talk about pitching. Everyone is going to say Scherzer and DeGrom, they're the greatest 1-2 punch in baseball. They're going to get through October and everyone's going to be scared to play against them. That is the musings of people who are just talking about names. I'm talking about actual performance. Was DeGrom unbelievable? Cy Young MVP worthy the first half? Yes, he was. But where was he the second half? You don't know what you're going to get with DeGrom ever. What happened with Scherzer? Did he only have the arm fatigue during the playoffs because he came out of the bullpen? Or is he 37 and doesn't do steroids like other players did? Therefore, you don't know exactly what you're going to get from those two. Who do you have behind him? Carrasco? That's as good as it's going to get. So I believe they need to do more. And will they? They tried for Matz. They tried for Gausman, apparently. Will they try to get Robbie Ray and just go crazy? Why not? If you're already over the threshold, you might as well go way over the threshold. But the National League East, you just don't know what's going to happen. We thought last year the division would be great, and it was mediocre. So there's a long way to go.
David, whether it's in regards to free agency signing, we talked to Jim Bowden. He said Scott Boras in particular, all these agents, they're going to try to get these deals done before Wednesday there. When it comes to the impending lockout, if we're going to have it, just give me your overall thoughts right now.
There's not one contract that we've seen in the last 3 days that will not be viewed as an overpay in either years or AAV. Mark my words, it's not even good enough to be a wait to see. There's not one contract that's being signed right now that's not an overpay, because agents are making owners feel desperate. They're making owners feel like you don't want to go into the lockout without your roster finished. Why not? What's the difference if you sign a guy in February when the lockout ends or by Wednesday? Artificial deadlines tend to help the player, not the owner. So agents are taking advantage of this. And if I were still running a team, I would not be signing anyone right now. Wait for the lockout to end. Wait for players to know exactly when the season's starting, and wait for you to know what the rules of engagement are, because then you can make good decisions and make your team better.
David, we appreciate it. It's a good day for agents. We didn't choose to be that, but that's okay. We appreciate your time, David Samson, who will undoubtedly be talking about this, everything going on right now, the flurry of activity and the signings in Major League Baseball. Make sure to download and follow his very popular podcast, Nothing Personal with David Samson. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.